earthquake in Virginia politics. Not only are we anticipating now the Supreme Court as they continue to wait and dot the I's and cross the T's on their decision about that referendum to gerrymander the entire state. The longer they wait, the experts say, it means they're going to strike this thing down. That's huge. But then yesterday, the FBI raided the offices of the most powerful Democrat in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And no, that's not Abigail Spanberger, the governor. It's the woman who has transcended governor's terms down there in the state Senate, Louise Lucas. Many people consider her a political thug, and now maybe she's actually a thug-like criminal as well. We're going to get at all that in 30 minutes with a Republican delegate named Ren Williams, who's all over that story. That's coming up just in this hour. Also, looking forward to the future. I really want to circle this for you. Coming up in our second hour, Katie McFarland, the former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump in the first term, but she served in various foreign policy and national security capacities, going all the way back to Henry Kissinger and through the Reagan administration. Katie McFarland's a regular guest on this program. Every Thursday, we'll hear from her on foreign policy and national security issues, and Lord knows there's a lot going on there. Also, in our third hour, the former governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker. He knows Republican politics. He knows Wisconsin politics, and that's going to be ground zero for these midterms coming up. A lot of hotly contested Senate races in that state. He's also the president of Young America's Foundation, the leading voice out there organizing young conservatives and getting them not just educated and activated, but also getting them and their friends from high school and college campuses into the fight and to the polling booth. So we'll talk to the governor and a whole lot of other guests in between. But this morning, first, we want to begin with really sort of a major news story that transcended a lot of the daily headlines. And that was the passing of an iconic figure in media, in politics, geopolitical diplomacy, sports, pop culture. Ted Turner, the founder of CNN, passed away yesterday. And we thought it was appropriate to take a moment to sort of acknowledge his passing. I know. Ted Turner was a environmental wacko and left-wing Democrat, and he was married to Jane Fonda and all that stuff. But I think it was a little more complicated than that, frankly. I think he was a hard-drinking and hard-fighting and hard-playing Democrat from the South that, well, didn't really fit the same stereotype that you'd expect from Democrats, at least the way we see Democrats these days. And yes, he was a anti-nuke, anti-Reagan, subverting our policies during the Cold War kind of peacenik. But he also changed media around the world forever with the advent of CNN. People laughed at him when he decided he wanted to have a 24/7 global satellite news network. They thought it would never work. Who would want to watch the news 24/7? You can't tell me this man wasn't a visionary. Think about how that has changed our lives. Before Fox, of course, before Rush Limbaugh, before all of the streaming channels that you can access right now at any given time, either in real time, live, or on demand. But most consumers of spoken word content, kind of thing that you're listening to right now, none of this, honestly, would have occurred at the level that it did if CNN didn't set itself up as a viable element of content for you to consume, but also as a viable business venture. And everything Ted Turner approached was as a business venture. President Trump saw fit to comment on the passing of Ted Turner yesterday. His post on Truth Social, well, defined him very well. Ted Turner, one of the greats of all time, just died, says President Trump. He founded CNN, sold it, and was personally devastated by the deal because the new ownership took CNN, his baby, and destroyed it. It became woke and everything that he is not all about. And that's true, by the way. There's a difference between being a liberal Democrat and being a brain-dead, woke zombie in the post-Obama era. And I don't think Ted Turner ever really fit in to this new form of the Democratic Party. I know he was still alive during the rise of Zohran Mamdani and AOC and everything, but he's died at 87, and he's been dealing with health issues, and he didn't really comment publicly on politics anymore. And I think the president is right about that. Let's go back to his statement here. Maybe the new buyers, wonderful people, will be able to bring it back to its former credibility and glory. Regardless, however, one of the greats of broadcast history and a friend of mine, whenever I needed him, he was there, always willing to fight for a good cause, President Donald J. Trump, speaking on Ted Turner yesterday. Think about that. They were good friends. And yes, President Trump, before he got into politics, he sort of transcended party lines and party definitions. He was in the Billionaires Club along with Ted Turner. They had a lot in common. They both owned sports teams. Turner owned the Atlanta Braves, and he also was a big investor in wrestling. Ted Turner's version of wrestling that showed up on TBS all the time. You remember TBS, right? That was a local Atlanta station that he then put on cable across the country, a super station. That's how a lot of kids my age grew up watching the Atlanta Braves, even though the Atlanta Braves were thousands of miles away, but you could see a Braves game every single night at 35, you remember. Everything on TBS was on the fives, which was always kind of weird, but that was just a business decision he made, thinking that he would get people who missed the beginning of a show at the top of the hour on the other channels to watch his channels. You think about all of the nationwide or global cable stations that all hatched from his brain that now we take for granted. It's remarkable vision. Also, by the way, he won the America's Cup, decided that he wanted to purchase a yacht and run the team on a yacht that would win the America's Cup, and he did it, all while drinking scotch and smoking cigars. And yes, he married Jane Fonda. You know, think about it. He's a billionaire media mogul, and he loves life, and he's of a certain age, and he wanted to marry a hot Hollywood star, and Jane Fonda was a hot Hollywood star, despite her subversive politics. Jane Fonda, by the way, put out a statement yesterday as well. Variety got the exclusive from her, and it reads, he swept into my life, a gloriously handsome, deeply romantic, swashbuckling pirate, and I've never been the same, Fonda wrote on her Instagram platform. He needed me. No one. Wait, what do you mean he needed me? Wait, you really are giving tribute to a man who just passed away by saying he needed me? All right, that's fine. I don't want to nitpick too much. He needed me. No one had ever let me know they needed me. And this wasn't your average human being that needed me. This was the creator of CNN and Turner Classic Movies, who had won the America's Cup and the world's greatest sailor. He had a big life, a brilliant mind, and a soaring sense of humor. He could also take care of me. That was new as well. To be needed and cared for simultaneously is transformative. Ted Turner helped me believe in myself. He gave me confidence. I think I did the same for him. All right. You know what? Jane Fonda's got a lot of psychological issues to unpack. I don't want to dump on her on the day that she lost a man she was married to, although they had become estranged over the last couple of decades. That should just be left alone. Rest in peace, Ted Turner. By the way, back to the president's statement. He used a lot of that statement to talk about what CNN was and what CNN has become. And I think we lose sight of that. Take a look at this, if we could. This is what CNN looked like in the opening weeks of that network. This was Ted Turner's vision. This is how the news was delivered on CNN when Ted Turner first took it to air. Watch, listen.
Take 3. Ready, 13, full. Ready, camera 3. 1 center up.
Good evening, I'm David Walker.
And I'm Lois Hart. Now here's the news. President Carter has arrived in Fort Wayne, Indiana for a brief visit with civil rights leader Vernon Jordan. Jordan is in serious but stable condition now at Parkview Hospital.
In New London, Connecticut, police say a man apparently upset over a family problem went on a shooting spree aboard an Amtrak train en route from Washington to Boston.
What you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night.
That, of course, interspersed at the end there with the famous fiery but mostly peaceful riot reporting from 2020 during the George Floyd BLM riots. That compilation put together by a great X account called Maze. I love the work that he does, and I subscribe to his account. I suggest you do the same. You heard them talking about a mass shooting on an Amtrak train, and they didn't stop there and pause and talk about gun laws. They didn't start lecturing you about your embrace of the Second Amendment, your God-given right protected by the Constitution, right? That was a very different CNN, not the CNN Ted Turner wanted. This is a big deal. He affected all of us in his own way. Every single American was affected by the creation of CNN and the implementation of cable news as an idea and as a business model. And our culture is different. The way we consume news is different. Not a lot of people can put that kind of footprint on our nation and then have us all walk and follow in those footprints. We're going to reflect a little bit more on this coming up in the next hour. Colleague of mine and one of the OG CNN reporters. In fact, he was the Pentagon reporter on the day of September 11th. Chris Plant, the legend, will be joining us in the next hour to reflect on his old boss, Ted Turner, and reflect on CNN. Make sure you're here for that. Good morning. It's O'Connor.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
Makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags. And let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view. And now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-832-7865.
That's another thing about Ted Turner. He kept living in Atlanta. He could have moved to New York. He could have moved to L.A. and hung out with this Hollywood star. By the way, a listener reaches out on Twitter. You can find me on the X platform, Larry O'Connor, just how it's spelled with an O-R, and says, he's right. Barton in Fairfax says, I dare anyone to watch Barbarella and criticize Ted Turner for marrying Jane Fonda. Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say that without sounding like a perv, okay? But that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't know this yet about men, they can make a lot of excuses about a woman and convince themselves to stay with her and marry her and stuff if they bring certain attributes to the table. Jane Fonda, for all of the lunatic junk that comes out of her mouth, for all the subversive, treasonous behavior in the Vietnam War, for all of the inanity, she was also a hot Hollywood babe, an Oscar-winning hot Hollywood babe, and Barbarella is appropriate. So Ted Turner did not marry Jane Fonda. Ted Turner married Barbarella, and I will die on that hill. We're going to talk about Louise Lucas. This is a huge political earthquake that will have a ripple effect across the nation. And, of course, once again, everybody falsely accusing Kash Patel and the Trump administration of using the Justice Department as a political weapon to go after a political enemy. No, sure looks like Louise Lucas is a crook. The FBI is going after a criminal. That's their job. So we're going to get to those details in just a second. But one other thing on Ted Turner, I said that he had an impact on pop culture, well beyond CNN, well beyond the news, well beyond politics, and even well beyond sports. I bring you the Cartoon Network. That's right. Ted Turner was very wise. What he did was he took his wealth that he made in the media and then acquired libraries. That's how he started Turner Classic Movies, is that he acquired all of these libraries of all these old classic movies. Now, for a little while there, in a very ill-advised fashion, he thought it would be smart to colorize black and white films. The market responded, and not very well, and so he sort of hit the pause button on that project. But he would acquire these things and then create channels, so the only place you could see those things, and people still watch Turner Classic Movies. My in-laws watch it all the time. I watch it. Meredith and I watch it all the time. Her favorite movies were all made before 1955. She's got an old soul, thank God. He also acquired the library of Hanna-Barbera, the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, Jetsons, all those great cartoons, and he formed the Cartoon Network, still thriving today, right? Online as well as on whatever cable box or satellite dish you like to subscribe to. One, though, I think downside to that is that he did let his politics get injected into his art and his commerce, because he started a cartoon show that I know a lot of people a little bit younger than me, because they were still watching cartoons. This was the early 90s. I was already up and working in the real world because I didn't go to college. That's right. I didn't go to college. I didn't sit around and watch cartoons and get high in a dorm room. I actually worked for a living. They would watch this cartoon here. Take a listen, and maybe you'll remember this.
Our world is in peril. Gaia, the spirit of the earth, can no longer stand the terrible destruction plaguing our planet. She sends 5 magic rings to 5 special young people. What? From Africa, with the power of earth. From North America, we live with the power of fire.
Enough. Stop, please. I can't take the propaganda. Captain Planet. Probably the worst thing Ted Turner ever did. Captain Planet, because we needed a superhero to save us from big oil. What can I tell you? Sometimes he just was a liberal hack. But he had an impact. He had a vision. And, well, rest in peace, Ted Turner, a true giant of our era. All right. Now, turning to Louise Lucas. For those of you not in the greater Washington area, Louise Lucas is the Democrat leader in the Senate. She is also a political monster, as she has been at odds with her own party, frankly, half of the time, and the other half of the time, she likes to attack Republicans. And yesterday, this is, by the way, the woman who had the vision of gerrymandering Virginia, enticing Democrats on the national level to take $80 million, put it in a giant pile, and apparently set it on fire, because it looks like the Supreme Court is going to overturn that referendum, fingers crossed. It was reported yesterday that her offices were raided by the FBI. Apparently, it's for an alleged bribery scheme in connection with a marijuana dispensary business co-owned by Ms. Lucas. This is according to sources telling CBS News, and we got that from multiple other outlets as well. I will tell you that her potentially illegal dealings with the marijuana business has been what they call an open secret in Richmond for quite some time. People have been talking about it and whispering about it and trying to shout from the rooftops about it for a while, but strangely, nothing really ever happened. Oh, and for everyone who tells you on other cable news networks, I saw them talking about this on CNN, where they had Andrew McCabe, the corrupt, dismissed, fired former deputy director of the FBI, to comment on this. That's really rich. You know, he went on to comment on how this is the Trump administration trying to punish a political enemy like Louise Lucas with an FBI investigation. But the fact is, this investigation began under Joe Biden, and then nothing happened. You know, what's worse? Being in charge of the Justice Department, knowing that somebody deserves to be investigated, and then not doing anything about it because they're a political friend, or actually investigating that person despite the fact that it might appear to the rest of the world that you're just inflicting pain on a political enemy. Either way, I think if someone broke the law, maybe it's me, they should be investigated and they should be prosecuted. And it looks like that's what's happening now with this very powerful Democrat in Virginia. Coming up, we're going to speak with a Republican delegate who's got all the dirt on Louise Lucas. Keep it here. It's O'Connor.
You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
From the SNC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly. Looking at a chance of some thunderstorms today across the high plains and into portions of some of the Rockies as well. We just saw a bunch of snow over the last day or so, but today it'll be more in the form of some rain or some thunderstorms, and mostly at lower levels. I do think there is still a chance of seeing some snow up in the higher levels in some of the peaks as well. Now, we're also tracking the chance of some thunderstorms, one or two of which could be on the strong to severe side across southwestern Texas. That'll pose mainly a hail threat for you out there. And then we're also looking at a chance of some thunderstorms that could be on the strong to severe side across Florida up through southern Alabama, some of Georgia, and into South and North Carolina. A couple of tornadoes possible, some damaging wind gusts, and some hail. Rain across the Northeast with a couple of non-severe thunderstorms across the mid-Atlantic, especially for this afternoon. I'm meteorologist Clay Osterly, Salem News Channel.
Watch weather update.
Don't get left out in the rain. Get an accurate and personalized weather consultation for any event by scheduling a call with Storm Guides. Go to stormguides.live and schedule your call today. Storm Guides, the calm in the storm. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates.
If you want to defeat the narratives with the truth, our show is for you.
Every day, 1 to 3 Eastern, it's common sense for the American people. The Scott Jennings Show, only on Salem News Channel.
Larry O'Connor Company, good morning. I'm not going to lie. If you're a Republican in Virginia, it's been a tough 6 months from the across-the-board loss in November to all 3 statewide candidates for the Democrats and then losing seats in Richmond. And then when this new Democrat leadership took hold in January, they've just been running roughshod over Republicans and completely upturning what used to be, maybe a bluish purple state, but certainly a whole lot of Republican ideas still living free and thriving in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I mean, we just had all 3 of those positions, the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general, held by Republicans for 4 years until this last election. So clearly Republicans still have a voice in Virginia. And then you have the gerrymander referendum that appears to be unconstitutional. We're waiting for the Supreme Court to overturn that. But should it stand, that would take 3 of the 4 remaining Republican seats and make them Democrat. The woman who envisioned all of this is named Louise Lucas. She's the president of the Senate. And while she was celebrating that referendum, she would put out videos mocking Republicans. She was chanting while drinking out of a Cristal champagne bottle, 10-1, 10-1, because that was the new congressional makeup. All right, I don't know if the Cristal champagne bottle was there, but you get the picture. A Republican in Virginia would be forgiven if, upon seeing the news yesterday that Louise Lucas's office had been raided by the FBI, they'd be forgiven if they said, wow, couldn't have happened to a nicer person. She's been, politically speaking, a monster. And she has ruled the roost down there. In fact, there's even reports that she's at odds with Governor Abigail Spanberger. She doesn't like that the Spanberger team is not falling in line and doing everything that she wants. And now she could be facing jail time and a complete and total disaster for Democrats in Virginia. To bring us up to speed on all the details here and what this case appears to be about is Ren Williams. He is a Republican in the House of Delegates representing the 47th District. That's Carol Floyd, Galax, and part of Henry and Patrick. Delegate Williams, let me just let everyone know, I'm guessing your part of the Commonwealth of Virginia is a more Republican, conservative, rural area. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm part of that area that voted no, the 48% in Virginia.
Yeah. And I'm just curious. Should the referendum go through, will you still be in that one last remaining Republican district, or would you then be represented by a Democrat from Fairfax?
Luckily, I'll be down here in the 9th district, the Republican stronghold for the Commonwealth.
All right. So you're in the part of Virginia that's now going to start contemplating seceding and joining Tennessee. Understood. I get it. No, you would never do that. You love Virginia.
It. That's right. West Virginia has invited us to come on over.
So tell me about Louise Lucas and what you hear down in Richmond about what this is really all about and what the impact may be.
Yeah, so we know Senator Louise Lucas is down from the Portsmouth area, the Hampton Roads area, and she's been a dominant force for a very long time in Democrat politics and Virginia politics, and now she's got a very strong seat when it comes to being the Senate Finance Chair and just Senate pro tem. I mean, that's a big position. And so now we're seeing that some of those things might be coming home to roost, some of her political endeavors over the, past several years, whatever she's gotten into privately as well.
Yeah, so the move to legalize marijuana in the Commonwealth, that was a big thing pushed by Democrats. And then it's amazing. In a lot of states where this thing has happened, you then find out that the very politicians that were pushing for decriminalization or legalization, they also then become partners and investors in dispensaries to get rich off of selling pot in their districts. And Louise Lucas is one of those politicians. Do you understand that part of this investigation has to do with her dealings with distribution of marijuana?
Well, I wouldn't put it as if she was distributing marijuana out on the street or anything
on the street corner, handing out dime bags.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think there may be something related to her cannabis businesses in that area. There's like the cannabis outlet, I believe. And I think there's several other locations. It's my understanding that not only hers, but some other distribution type dispensaries in that area were also raided. So there must be something going on with that ring, if you will.
Yeah, this is what people hate about politicians, by the way. Forgive me, Delegate Williams, other kind of politicians. Everybody loves you, Ren Williams. Don't get me wrong. But apparently, not only did she co-owned a cannabis outlet, she also owned the Lucas Lodge. That's a Portsmouth day support program. And also a Southside Direct Care, it's called. So she owned a healthcare place. She owned a daycare place. She owned These are all businesses that exist, regulated, and funded by the government. So basically, she passes legislation, and then she starts a business to get rich off of that very legislation. That appears to be what's going on here.
I mean, that's certainly been her livelihood when it comes to federal dollars and that money coming into ultimately her pocketbook, her purse. But I think that she's definitely taken advantage of the position and that insider knowledge, that insider trading that everybody hates when it comes out of Congress.
She's on the Education and Health Committee. She's on the Behavioral Health and Development Services Committee. She's on the Department of Medical Assistance Services and Health. And these are all of the departments that then live and die based on rules, regulations, and funding for the very businesses that she started while she was a state senator. I'm also told that this is Kash Patel, the politicized FBI, and Donald Trump going after Louise Lucas because she engineered this gerrymander referendum. Is that true, or does this actually date back many years before this Trump administration?
Well, now we're finding out that a lot of this, plus other things that Kash Patel and even J.D. Vance were talking about yesterday when it comes to fraud, all started under the Biden administration. And actually, the Biden administration ended up covering for a lot of these organizations and stopping any further investigation or action into them.
Now, I want to show you something because a lot of people think that politics is very clean and dry and there's no gray area and it's just black and white and Republicans are Republicans and Democrats are Democrats. But you get to see firsthand from a front row seat that there's a whole lot of infighting in this Democrat Party, isn't there, in Virginia? There's no love lost between certain factions within the party that you oppose.
I love Democrat on Democrat violence. They are absolutely gutting each other right now. They have been sniping at each other since they took office. You've got Senator Louise Lucas questioning Abigail Spanberger's credibility openly on Twitter. There is no Abigail Spanberger did not have a frown on her face yesterday.
Let's take a look at this video. Local D.C. reporter, one of our favorites, he's a regular on our program, Nick Minnock, for the local ABC affiliate, Sinclair affiliate. He asked, now, first of all, usually when Abigail Spanberger sees Nick Minnock going, she goes the other way. She starts running into a limousine, right? She will never talk to this guy. But she knows the story of the day is Louise Lucas. So now watch this video and watch the look on her face when asked about this FBI raid. Here. And for those of you who are listening on radio, I just want you to know, Abigail Spanberger, during everything you're about to hear, cannot conceal a grin on her face. Her dimples are showing. She is fighting so hard not to smile. Here, let's take a listen.
I want to talk to you about what's happening a few hours away. Senator Louise Lucas's home, our office rather, was raided by the FBI. At this point, do you stand by the senator or are you concerned? Because our sources are telling us this is about bribery and corruption.
Well, certainly I am aware of the law enforcement action that occurred in Portsmouth, and I am awaiting more details to become public before weighing in with any strong public comment. And as more information becomes available, I look forward to making further comment.
I haven't seen her smile that much since Inauguration Day, Delegate Williams. I mean, it's pretty transparent that these two hate each other. Am I wrong? Am I misreading that?
No, I've actually said, wouldn't it be interesting if it was Abigail Spanberger who actually narked on Senator Lucas just so she could get past this budget deadline? That would be vicious.
Yeah. She is a CIA officer, let's face it. I mean, they've been known to do this sort of thing. And it was reported this week that people in the Spanberger administration have been sniping and finger pointing behind the scenes because the anticipation is the Supreme Court will follow the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia and strike down this referendum. And apparently the Spanberger people were at war with the Lucas people before this referendum even got written to hand to the voters, because the Spanberger people said this isn't going to pass muster. This is unconstitutional. Now, is that where you're sitting right now? Do you think that this Supreme Court is going to do the right thing? What are you hearing anything inside on this?
Yeah, I'll just step back a little bit and say that, one of the things that I think most people looked over was the fact that one of the Supreme Court justices lost his wife that week. And so there has certainly been a reasonable delay when it comes to that. I know that the attorneys, Republican attorneys for, the vote no side have been suggesting that it should come anytime this week, even technically yesterday, but obviously there was some bigger news that broke, so maybe they delayed a little bit. But we do anticipate there's an unconstitutional finding, especially when it comes to that intervening election language. But I want to remind everybody that, Abigail Spanberger says she didn't have any plans to redistrict, and I guess she was on the vote no side there for a little bit, and ultimately she's the new kid on the block here in Richmond. If you think about it, they had marching orders and they were taking care of business, and then she showed up. So she was fighting a very strong-willed leadership down here in the General Assembly.
And listen, you mentioned something very important, that they still don't have a budget. There's a 90-day legislative session in Virginia. That's expired now. They still don't have a budget. They have complete control. It's one-party rule, Delegate Williams, and I think that this is important to see what their priorities are. First thing out of the block was to make sure they could gerrymander Republicans out of existence. They haven't done the basic blocking and tackling of legislating. Is there going to be a special session? Can we operate without a budget?
We're actually in a special session. They started the special session as soon as they adjourned from the veto session. They started the special session, and I think they left the original regular session still open. So they have, left it all out there for them to continue to meddle in Virginia, which I know is why they want full-time legislators, so they can meddle year-round.
They're going to say this is why we need to be in session full-time, just like California, so we can California, Virginia. Ren Williams, thanks for joining us. Keep up the good work. We'll touch base with you. And it's a good life lesson for everyone nationwide and every other area, and certainly in Maryland and in the District of Columbia. They'll run on moderation, they'll run on affordability, they'll run on competence, and they'll get into office, they'll get power, and they won't do the basics. They won't get the job done. Transcend that to the midterms, and you see exactly what's going to happen if you give Hakeem Jeffries that gavel. It's O'Connor.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under-eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, in this super inflated economy, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95 and free shipping. So don't wait. Just call the number on your screen.
Call 800-826-0172. You're watching Salem News Channel across America.
I'll let you know we've got more on this scandal out of Richmond and the Democrats. This is what happens when you give Democrats absolute power, one-party rule. You've seen it in California. You've seen it in Illinois. You've seen it in New York. You see it in Maryland. You see it in all these states. You'll see it in Washington, D.C. if you give Hakeem Jeffries the gavel. And we've got more on this. They've only had ultimate power in Virginia for, 3.5, 4 months? And look at how the walls are tumbling down and how Virginians can't even get an operating budget in time. We're going to speak with Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safer Communities, coming up later in the program to unpack that and some other things that have happened in Virginia and how it's going to affect you where you live. That's coming up in a bit. The president had a busy day yesterday. They had some Mother's Day celebrations and gatherings. And a lot of people like to compare Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan, and they are bigger than life figures, and they have been able to advance the conservative agenda by miles compared to any other conservative Republican president in my lifetime. But they have something else in common. They're really good at riffing. They're really good at being charming. They're really good at telling jokes. They're really good at events that have nothing to do with, military strikes and tax policy. Perfect example yesterday. Here's the president talking about motherhood, Mother's Day, and the wife of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Here, take a listen.
Along with Jennifer Hegseth. Jennifer? Hi, Jennifer. He's doing some job, I'll tell you. He's doing a job. He stood up. He was the only one. He was standing up in the ballroom the other day in the event, the White House. They call it the White House dinner. They were saying, when you use that term, I guess you probably can use it. But we had a little dinner the other night, and your husband was standing on the top of a table. Everyone else was under the table. So that's what we want of our Secretary of War, right? We want somebody, but he was standing on top of the table. Everyone else was under the damn table. Anyway, he's doing a fantastic job. He and the general, those are great news conferences. We like them. They work very well together, I can tell you. The wife of Pete Hegseth, and say hello to Pete.
Yeah, they were honoring military mothers there and military spouses, and it was a great event, a very cool event. And you can see him riffing like that. And everybody, the smart set in Washington keeps telling me that Pete Hegseth is on a short leash and he's the next one to go and he's going to get fired. And the president loves Pete Hegseth, and the military loves Pete Hegseth. Rank and file love Pete Hegseth. One would argue that that's why the smart set and conventional wisdom don't like Pete Hegseth. But he's not there to please them. He's there to please the president. You can see him gushing. He then turned to the mother of his youngest child, Barron Trump, the First Lady, Melania. And I do like it when he reveals a little bit about their relationship. It's rather closely guarded. Even if you watch the Melania documentary, you don't see a whole lot of the two of them interacting as husband and wife. And a lot of people look at this, it's a marriage of convenience and it's just a professional relationship. No, it's not. This is not the Clintons. You can tell that they love each other and they care about each other, not just for their own political advancement, the way the Clintons do. And then he told this little story that is so relatable to every husband and wife. Here, listen.
I love the name Melody because for a long time, they have spell correct and word correct on these crazy machines that we use to put out truths, or they used to be called tweets. And every time I wrote Melania, it would correct to Melody. So I do things, and I work very fast, blah, 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 and I talk about it and I say, and Melania is fantastic, and happy Mother's Day, Melania, our great First Lady Melania, but it would spell correct and word correct to Melody. And sometimes I wouldn't proofread it and I'd say, and I would get just absolute decimated. These people would decimate. They said he didn't know the name of his wife. He keeps calling her. And I said, what the hell is wrong with this machine? I didn't know about that little feature, but I got that corrected eventually. You know who corrected? The military. I said, come here, you got to correct this. You're killing me. I took more abuse. She's been called Melody a lot. Anyway, I had to explain it to you this way. I stood up here to explain it to you. I apologize.
We've all been there, Mr. President. We've all been there. Listen, I know that President Trump is a polarizing figure, and even conservatives and Republicans sometimes have mixed feelings about him, depending on what he's doing and what he's tweeting and what he's saying. But there are moments in this presidency, especially Trump 2.0, as our friend Sean Spicer calls it in his brand new best-selling book, that I think years from now, we're going to look back and say, oh, my gosh, it really was something having that guy in the White House. And yes, even the fake news media is going to miss him. So in these last 3 years or 2+ years of him being the commander in chief, when there's moments like that, we're gonna bring it to your attention, because you never know what you got until you don't have it anymore. A couple of quick things I want to tell you about. A lot of my colleagues get to go on listener cruises. They get to take their listeners and then they all go on a vacation together. And you know how these things work. You go out on a beautiful cruise. It's a vacation, but then you add Q&As and presentations for the audience, and you almost kind of do your show right there in front of them live on the ship. It's a once-in-a-lifetime unique experience, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm going to do just that. If you want more information, go to larrycruise.com. I'm going to be hosting this cruise along with Scott Jennings, who you all know and love from his great work on CNN, and of course is a radio host and podcaster as well nationwide. Plus Kurt Schlichter, one of my best friends in the world. I've always wanted a vacation with Kurt Schlichter. He'll be there, senior columnist from Town Hall, as well as Mike Gallagher. And the radio host in Los Angeles, Jennifer Horn, will also be joining us. Go to larrycruise.com to get more information about that. It's larrycruise.com. Meredith and I have actually vacationed personally on this very same cruise ship that we're going to be on. It's beautiful. You're going to love it. larrycruise.com. Come cruise with us and sail away. It's going to be a blast. Ahoy. Also, I just want to tell you one other thing, too. I want to show you this or talk about this if you're listening on radio. This is the finisher's medal I got for the Marine Corps Marathon. It's beautiful. It's great. It's the Marine Corps emblem, right? The anchor and globe and the eagle, Semper Fidelis. It's fantastic. People look at this and say, wow, you must be so proud of that. I look at this finisher's medal for the Marine Corps Marathon, and all I can think of is pain. Because I had pain. I was so stiff and sore for like weeks after my very first marathon. But then I found out about Relief Factor. Listen, with supplements, there's two things that matter most. Okay, it works and you can trust it. Both are essential, and I can tell you that both are in the little package of Relief Factor. So please go to relieffactor.com or call them 800-4RELIEF. They've got a quick start, 3-week quick start. Check it out. It's relieffactor.com. Relieve that pain.
At this hour on SNC.
A look at today's top stories.
Reporting on today's biggest political headlines and breaking news.
That's what you need to know at this hour.
On Salem News Channel.
Listen up, America. We're about to lose the AI arms race, not because of code or chips, but power. AI runs on electricity, and we don't have enough of it. China gets this, building power nonstop while we shut ours down. For years, Democrats canceled pipelines, blocked drilling, and attacked fossil fuels, the very energy AI depends on. That's changing under President Trump, but the fight isn't over. No power means no AI, no progress, no edge. Get the free report now at oilfacts.com. Oilfacts.com, powered by Prairie Operating Company.
Will we have a negotiated settlement to the military strikes in Iran? That's what everybody's wondering. What's it going to look like? Will they be able to retain some level of nuclear program? Are we going to get ownership of whatever is left of their enriched uranium? How is this going to work exactly? And will they get any relief from their sanctions? The president's kind of sending mixed messages on social media. How do you cut through all of that and figure out what's really going on? KT McFarland is going to join us in the next hour, former Deputy National Security Advisor. But up next, Chris Plante, legendary radio host and one of the OG CNN reporters. He was there at the Pentagon on 9/11. He worked for Ted Turner. We're going to reflect on the man and his vision. Ted Turner and CNN. Chris Plante is going to join us coming up next. But first, here's your headlines. I'm going to get more coffee.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us from the SNC World Headquarters in New York. I'm Deontay Maroney with the top stories we're following at this hour. Iran says it's reviewing a new U.S. proposal to end the war, as President Trump warns of more bombing if Tehran does not agree to a deal. Now, the conflict has shut down the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting global oil markets. And on Wednesday, the U.S. fired on an Iranian tanker accused of trying to break an American blockade. Officials in Pakistan say a deal could come soon. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is at the Vatican this week, aiming to ease tensions after President Donald Trump criticized Pope Leo XIV over the war in Iran. Now, the Pope has pushed back against Trump's comments, calling for peace and defending his position on nuclear weapons. Rubio is also expected to meet with the Italian leaders who have spoken out against the conflict. A judge has released a note linked to Jeffrey Epstein's first suspected suicide attempt in jail. The note was turned over by Epstein's former cellmate, who claimed he found it after the incident. Now, the document had been sealed for nearly 5 years, and it includes the phrase, "time to say goodbye." Officials say it's still unclear who actually wrote that note. The cruise ship linked to a deadly hantavirus outbreak is heading to Spain's Canary Islands after 3 passengers were evacuated for treatment. The World Health Organization say 8 cases have been identified, including 3 deaths. Officials believe a Dutch couple may have contracted the virus during a bird-watching trip before boarding the ship. For real-time updates, download the Salem News Channel app and follow us online at snc.tv. In New York, I'm Deontay Maroney.
At this hour on SNC.
A look at today's top stories.
Reporting on today's biggest political headlines and breaking news.
That's what you need to know at this hour
on Salem News Channel.